I just wanted to share this moment with you because it's a very special moment and there's some surprises. We are right here at the... Hello everyone, I'm Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monica Morani.
Welcome to the first of many Healing Wednesdays and the Circle of 12. We're very excited to be bringing you this series, and as I say, this is number 1, although we did have a premiere. Now, to the subscribers here, I will tell you, and to all of those who are watching free, that this healing premiere we did really set the stage, and we're going to talk about that in a moment between us. Before we do anything else, I want to talk about streaming and the internet. This is a streamed program for the subscribers. Now, streaming is very, very different than like watching a video on YouTube. It demands a whole lot more from your processor in order for us to come to you live, which is what we want to do. So, did you know that it depends on what browser you have, how well it streams, and how much the experience will be to you, whether it's pleasant or not. The best browsers you can use would be Chrome and Firefox. Also, if you have a lot of open tabs on your browser, sometimes that taxes it, and you won't have the same experience you should have. We want you to have a very good streaming experience, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. If, for some reason, the internet is poor in your area or on the way to your area, let me explain. Streaming can be something that is perfect, and you can have somebody overseas see it lovely and beautifully, and yet the person next door will have trouble. That's just the way the internet is, and it's just one of those things that is not predictable. Therefore, here is my message to you. Please, if you have trouble, if it freezes, if it stops and starts and it continues doing it, this particular program is an hour and a half long. Don't suffer through that. Don't be frustrated, because 1 hour immediately after we finish this program, we'll have the replay.
Yes.
And the replay is done in a completely different way. It doesn't tax your browser. It's just like watching a YouTube video. It's perfect. So we're recording everything we do here and immediately processing it and making it available for your replay. Again, 1 hour after we finish this, you can watch the show. So don't be frustrated. Don't keep trying in case you have something that interrupts it. The programs will always be as follows. We have myself and Monica Morani, and we're going to talk in a moment about things.
Yeah.
We talk amongst ourselves for a while. We have experiences we want to talk about and things that you might be interested in. We'll have a Kryon channeling. Then we have our special interview with the healing of the week, the healer of the week, actually. And then we'll have a break, 10-minute break, and then we'll come back with the Circle of 12. So, what did you think about the premiere?
I tell you, it was so different to anything that I imagined. And not only what I imagined, I actually had a few people email me and send messages of the excitement of the Circle of 12, but also we go into the linear part where we all feel like there's going to be a Circle of 12 masters that are around us.
Not everybody knows what we're talking about because we have subscribers that did not see the premiere. But we have been going since, since it was ever announced about the Circle of 12 some months ago, I think. And Kryon gave that message in Raleigh that this is what we were supposed to do from now on.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it would be either. So
until the reveal.
I thought we would have 12 masters as well, and you know who they would be and what would happen. And that has all changed. And so I'm sure Kryon is going to talk about it, so I'm not going to give it away, but it's not exactly as you think.
Well, leading up to the Healing Circle of 12 premiere, though, Kryon gave some hints saying that the Circle of 12 represents a metaphor. It's something else, it represents a metaphor. And during the channels that were given at Unity Village in Kansas City, Missouri, I was waiting for what the metaphor was, but we didn't get told that until the actual Healing Circle premiere that aired. So do you want to explain what the Circle of 12 metaphor represents?
I will. Although I know Kryon likes to talk about it, I will do it. And the reason this is tough is because it's so far different than what anybody thought, and it has to do with a multidimensional concept that Kryon has been talking about for years. Basically, in the channeling and all that we got in the healing premiere, he laid heavy on the fact that we have our mathematics wrong, and that everything that has to do with the creation of the universe, our cellular structure, physics, and all, is divisible by 4. And our math is 10-based, divisible by 5 and 2. What that means to you is that we have all that is divisible by 4. This has to do then with the 12. How many, for instance, base pairs do we have in of our DNA? 4. How many laws of physics? 4. You get into all of these 4s and 4s and 4s, and you begin to realize that 12, 3, all of these numbers and the 6s are represented almost everywhere you look. How many times is the 12 represented in our Holy Scriptures that we have, in the Western world anyway? It was something like 200 or more times. And you have all these 12s that present themselves, and derivatives of 12s, 144,000, and very little else, all divisible by 4. Bottom line, when you step into the circle of 12, you're stepping into that which is the structure and formula of consciousness, all divisible by 4. You step into your soul.
How amazing. A formula.
Yeah.
A formula of consciousness.
Formula of consciousness. That's brand new.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? At that point in time, truly, how does it work? And that's part of the circle of 12, and that's what Kryon presented, and it's profound to be in it. Every single one of these programs is going to be similar when we get to the circle of 12. It's going to be a meditation that has similar attributes that Kryon says will change slightly, but the invitation is to come and sit in this every single week.
Yeah. And if someone's asking, oh my gosh, this is way over my head, I don't understand any of it, you don't need to.
You really don't.
Everything you need to understand about this is innately built within you. And it's just about relaxing and allowing and giving permission and feeling the energy. Am I right?
Absolutely right. In fact, not to give anything away, but we have a wonderful healer today, Dr. Eric Pearl. Because I've been with him so often and we presented together, when you hear the reconnection and all of that and how he explains it, it's very similar to what Kryon has said is the healing circle. And so I'm not surprised. In fact, Eric I know this from his website, he's starting to offer Wednesday morning programs.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, so when we get to his interview, I'm sure he's going to mention it, and you'll see it. That's coming up in just a little bit after the channel. One of the things that Monica and I want to do is to try to set a stage. We've been all over the planet. We've had so many wonderful experiences, and some of them profoundly spiritually, some of them are just funny, some of them are just fun. And there is no other way for any of you to know about these things or participate in the fun and the experiences other than us telling you about it. So in every single one of these programs, we just take a moment and tell you some of the funny things that have happened. When you talk about where we have been, I'm thinking, I've mentioned it before in other channels, and I'm going to mention it again, is that Kryon has taken us all over the planet, but when you go to places like the King's Chamber and the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and we've been there like 6 times and channeled, and all the profound things have happened, whether it's the Sphinx or whatever, that's just in one country. We're going to talk about things that have happened in Uluru, which in a minute we're going to do, the middle of Australia, Easter Island. We have a lot of stories that are really fun and profound. I want to go to perhaps one of the ones we can tell the most stories about is at Uluru, middle of Australia, called the Red Center. That's where Ayers Rock, many of you have seen that, that's the commercial name of it, and it's an orange monolith in the middle of Australia. It literally is sacred land by the Ananu, the Aborigines. It's owned by the Aborigines. You can't climb the rock. We're probably going to talk about this several times, but we've had a number of experiences there. And I'm going to let Monica tell you a little bit about some of the amazing things about those peoples, the Ananu, and then I want to tell you one of my experiences.
Well, I love that their creation story is they came from the 7 sisters. And not only is that their creation story, they have a 3,000-mile song line that goes across the desert telling the story of their creation from the 7 sisters. And when Lee and I were fortunate enough to be in Uluru, one of the places I wanted to go was a place called Cave Hill, because I had seen the artwork that is on the ceiling of the roof of the cave. And what intrigued me the most was that this cave is said by the Ananu culture to be the original landing place of the Pleiadians. I mean, didn't you get chills when I told you that there's a cave that has the original landing of the Pleiadians as part of their culture?
And you told me at that time that we had to have permission from it. We had to have an elder take us. Sometimes the elders don't even show up.
It's their land, and you have to go with their permission.
And we got to go.
And that was profound. And here's the thing, though. This is a culture that's the oldest living culture on the planet that claims they have been living there, living in the moment for 50,000 years. And they tell you all the details of their tradition. But they are a society that we describe as non-literate. We've only had literacy for the last couple of thousands of years. We didn't necessarily have literacy 50,000 years ago. And yet all of their history is passed down through what's called oral tradition. I didn't really think much about that until I came across this amazing book by another Australian author by the name of Lynn Kelly. She wrote a book called The Memory Code. And she's basically saying that society and culture that had orality, which is oral tradition, non-literate, the structure of their brain was completely different, because the information they would receive is creating memory palaces within their brain, recorded through song, dance, memory aids, memory landscapes. And basically she was saying, once we were Google, we would have encyclopedic knowledge within the structure of our brain that you recall through dance, song, chants, memory aids. And one of the things that impressed me in her book, because she researched this all around the planet, many cultures. She got sparked by the Aboriginal Indigenous culture in Australia, but she found the same common principle around the world. And one of the things she relates in her book is about the North American Navajos, and how researchers were able to sit down with them, and the Navajo were able to give them 700 insect species. I mean, Lee, can you imagine 700 insect species? I don't know any entomologist that can rattle off the top of their head 700 insect species, their habitats, where they live, and all of that is done and presented through dance and myth and sand paintings and stories like that. And sorry.
I just say I relate to that. I didn't understand it at first. I relate to it when you think about how many of you remember, especially Americans I'm talking to, how many remember the ABC song that you learned as a child for your letters? And the answer is you'll remember it probably to your last breath, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all of these. And what are your favorite songs? And do you remember the lyrics of them? And the answer is, yeah, you really do, because they're important to you. This is the crux of it, that the brain and the mapping of the brain goes there and remembers it a whole lot more than anything that you'd read in a book.
And I'm just having a little intuition come in that these Healing Wednesdays, we're offering them every Wednesday for at least a year. That's the promise from Kryon and you.
Yes.
And it's going to be a similar process every time. And I just feel that there is something in that structure that will go into our cells in a very deep and ancient way of what the Indigenous have been using for years.
I agree.
Yeah.
I want to do more, but I want to do it. I'm going to do it later.
Okay.
Because I want time for it, and I'm realizing that we're almost getting to the time of the channel now. I'll give it a little preview.
Yeah.
When we were there, we had an amazing experience with the Indigenous. The Aborigine usually, and this is, I'm not telling anything out of source, are apart from the whites. They don't really have that much to do with them, and so you don't usually get close. And we did, and it was an astonishing thing. They even felt Kryon. So this is what I want to tell you. One of these times we're together.
Yeah. And when you say apart, it's
Yeah.
just their deep spiritual truths. I
Yes.
think that's what you mean, because
Yeah.
there has been a lot more recognition now, thank goodness,
Yes.
of including Indigenous in welcome to country ceremonies and things like that. So that process has started. Yeah.
I just love the fact that we got to know them.
Yeah.
This
I know.
is my dream, to sit in front of a wise Indigenous person
Yes.
who trusts us
How blessed.
enough to say, here's how it works.
Yeah.
And we've had that with some shamans in the
Yes.
past, and we'll
Yeah.
get to those stories as well. All right, I think it's time right now to get to the channeling.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask Monica to give us that, and it gives me a chance to take off my watch and my glasses, which I always do before we channel.
Great. So make yourself comfortable wherever you are sitting and tuning in to watching this happen now or listening. Allow your body to relax. Relax your head, relax your shoulders, relax your arms and your hands. Relax your chest, relax your back. Relax your abdomen, your thighs, your knees, your calves, and your feet. And feel the energy of the earth connecting up through your feet, up through your calves, your knees, your thighs, your abdomen, your chest, your back, your hands, your arms, your shoulders, and traveling up through your head and out the top of your head, and connecting to the universal field that surrounds you and is biased in love. And from this place, let us give permission and a willingness to take the hand of Kryon as we hear the message to be delivered.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Blessed is the human being who sees themselves as we do on the other side of the veil as worthy of hearing truth, of worthy of having that which has always been possible for them. Blessed is the human being who sees the magnificence of their soul as created by that which you would call God. The creative source has many names, many cultures. Sometimes the word God is not the one you want to use only because of the stigma of what you've been told about the word. It's not necessary. God has so many names, one of them being God. Some of them so precious to some, they don't even pronounce it. That creative source is seen by so many as the perfect love source of the universe, creator of all things. The most beautiful thing of that creator is that which is you. On this planet, you play the prime role. We have told you for so long that because of this, the indigenous wisdom tells you to ally with that which is nature, with that which has the name Gaia. That's just one of many things you have been told. There are so many hidden things because of your culture, things that your culture has not brought forward from the past, things that your culture does not believe, that you haven't been taught, and yet they are the staple of those who've lived on this planet for so long. So part of this, the channeling, the healing, all that is being taught is trying to connect you again, not to what you've lost, but what you simply haven't been told. It's there, dear ones. All of it is there. I want to talk yet again to this group who is listening, who may never have heard this. Do you know what innate is? If I said something about that which is your innate, would you know what I was speaking of? I wish to speak about something in your body that is a key player, if you want to use that word, in the healing circle of 12. Something that if you don't know about it, now you will, and you may even scratch your head if you haven't heard this before. There are so many who understand, who know what innate is. But now I want to tell you. There is an intelligence in your cellular structure that is not necessarily represented in your brain. Your brain is the master computer and rememberer. It has a part of your consciousness, but not all. Your consciousness is really part of a triad between your pineal, representing the soul connection, your heart, and your brain. But your brain is not all that is. And even though it controls so much of what your body does, there is something called innate. And that innate is smarter than you are. It knows a lot more about what's going on in the body than you do. Now, for years, you might have heard about certain kinds of processes that use innate, but probably didn't understand that they were doing that very thing. One is called kinesiology. Kinesiology has another name, muscle testing. Muscle testing and kinesiology is used even into science and even in mainstream doctors. It is something that is absolutely understood and known works. Why it works, perhaps not as well, but it works. Muscle testing will be sometimes used in order to test what your body wants in the number of doses of a medicine or a supplement. And that muscle testing will ask yes or no, yes or no. Is the body ready for this? Innate is responsible for one of the greatest healing modalities that exists on the planet, homeopathy. How can you take a tincture, which is a healing signal that is so small it is measured in parts per million, too small to have any kind of a chemical reaction from the body? You put it in your mouth under your tongue, and the body then performs what the tincture is for. Homeopathy has been used for centuries, and it works. In certain countries, when you go into a store to buy remedies, they will not sell you anything but homeopathy, because they know of the power of a signal under your tongue that your brain sees. That is innate, dear ones. Innate isn't simply responsible for these kinds of things. It goes further and further. Innate also corresponds with consciousness. Here's where I'm going that you should know. Have you heard of affirmations? And have you wondered why they might work? Someone says, I am healed. I am complete. I am pure. And that someone who is saying it may be lying in a sickbed. And you'll go, how odd that they would have a dichotomous statement when they're ill, stating that they are well. This is where innate starts to kick in, meaning starts to work, because there is a consciousness part of the innate that hears what you say, because you are the boss. The consciousness of your body is you. You are the boss of your cells. And when you state certain kinds of things, innate hears it, and just like the homeopathy, starts to implement the very things you are saying. Did you hear that? This is how powerful your consciousness is as it starts a process that's always been there. We've also told you the opposite, that if you decide to tell your body it's worthless, your innate will kick in. In other words, it'll start a process of dis-ease, of unhealthy. If you're worthless, you don't even belong to be here. That is what you're telling your body. That is why we have always said, be careful what you say, because innate, the smart body, is listening. And when it hears the boss make statements, it does its best to implement. Just like if you had some tincture under your tongue that said, get sick, it would. That's how powerful all of this is, dear ones. It's called innate. My partner has talked about hypochondriacs and had a friend, he says, even from high school, who was afraid that he would catch everything and that he would die of cancer. All through his life, he was sick. And all through his life, my partner heard him say, well, I have this and I have that, and I'm not going to live long. And he didn't. All through his life, he told his body what he was afraid of, and the body took care of it all. He caught everything he was afraid of and died of cancer. This is because he was programming himself for dysfunction. It goes both ways, dear ones. How about programming yourself for magnificence? In this healing circle, this circle of 12, innate is critical. Because as you start these visions that I have given you and that I will guide you through, and that some of you have been through with me in the premiere, as you start these visions, your smart body, your innate, will say, this is real. This is what the consciousness is going toward. Look, here's where we are. Here, look what's happening. Look, there's feet being washed. Look, there's healings going on. Look at the affirmation. And listening for what your consciousness has to say, who you are, and what's going to happen next. Your innate, dear ones, is part of this healing process. They call it the smart body for a reason, for a very good reason. It's smarter than you are. And sometimes, dear ones, it will even go around who you think you are. And what I mean by that is that when you get into a certain position, especially in these visualizations, that even that which you doubt, the innate will say, I'm smarter than that. How about we have a healing today instead of doubting today? This is the smart body, dear ones. This is what you're going to be using in every single healing circle. Conscious homeopathy plus a connection with the soul that you've never had before brings you to a place that is new. It's new. Connection at the soul level is something we have never, ever given you before in this way. This healing is not new. It is what spontaneous remission is also. You are looking at the processes of miracles you've seen before and never understood that they actually were processes built into the body that were so profound that they could have instant healings at any time. This is the energy we are working with, even today, later, and will work with every single week. Think of the profundity of this, something that you always had, that somehow comes awake, realized, and seen. Well, Kryon, if that's the case, then why don't you just do it once? I wish this were the way it works, but it does not, because through free choice, dear ones, you have learned so much against the way it works. There are those who've told you you're nothing and never will be. There are those who told you you have a creative source who loves you so much that it's going to punish you forever and your soul will be damned. How does that then work with the magnificence of your soul and your humanness and made as an image and all of these things you've been told. You have so much to unlearn if you want to stand in the presence of the real energy of the creative source who loves you so much. This is the teaching and the truth. Prayer, awesome as it is, works so much better when you start connecting with the source instead of on your knees pleading to it. Connecting to the source is that next step of spirituality that all of you have sought, no matter what your doctrine is. And all the masters that you've worshipped are right there in your soul. And you'll see them and you'll feel them and they can love you. Actually, it seems their hands will be out to take yours. This is where we're going. This is new. It's not a doctrine. It's not a religion. It's not a belief system, dear ones. It's just you with you. You either feel it or you don't. And as you'll know, as we go through these circle of 12, there will be so much to work on and unlearn and discover the true majesty of the Spirit of God inside yourself. There'll be more. And so it is.
And take a breath deeply into your heart center, exhaling slowly and softly. And allow your awareness to come back into the room, back into your body, because we would now like to present our wonderful speaker for the show, and that is Dr. Eric Pearl. And I want to tell you, if you have not heard about Eric Pearl, he ran a highly successful chiropractic practice for 12 years until one day his patients actually began reporting healings as Eric simply held his hands near them. Can you imagine? So Eric, are you there? Are you here with us?
I am most definitely here, Monica.
Oh,
Thank you
great
both
to
for
see
inviting
you.
me onto your program.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Lee. I see you now, too.
Great. So Lee, you want to tell our audience a little more about Eric?
I want to say with his life's partner, Jillian, they teach what science today calls reconnective healing, and I want you to remember that term. It's affecting the lives of millions globally, and it is. It really is. He has an ongoing worldwide work, and it's been now for decades. They recently created something called the Portal, which is Reconnective Healing Online, Level 1. It's a course, so you may begin to learn reconnective healing while at home, and I know Eric's going to talk a little more about that.
Now, Eric, just like Lee, has appeared at the United Nations. He's also appeared on Dr. Oz, CNN, and was featured in the New York Times. His international bestseller from Hay House is called The Reconnection: Heal Others, Heal Yourself. And that's translated into 40 languages. I mean, that's double what we have.
That's right.
40 languages. Now, stay tuned, because guess what, Lee?
What?
They have a new book that is coming out next year.
Awesome. About time.
About time.
Time. Okay.
We had an interim book.
We do. Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's right. That's true.
Co-authored with Fred Ponslav, and it's called Solomon Speaks on Reconnecting Your Life. And
Solomon Speaks.
That's some interesting channel material, something you're
Awesome.
clearly an authority on, that came through when I started holding my hands near my patients and they started losing consciousness.
Well, I want to tell people, because you're a personal friend, Eric, and unlike so many of the people that viewers are going to see later on in this series, you are number one, and I selected this in our series for you to be first. I want to just tell folks, and I want to make this short. My phone rang one day a couple decades ago, and I was at home, And I got this man on the phone, and he introduced himself, didn't really get his name. And he said, look, I'm in Los Angeles. People are starting to channel on my chiropractic couch. I had this practice. I found your book, and I know you're a channeler. Can you help me explain it? The first thing I went is, how did this guy get my number? I'm at home. Nobody can do that. And the second thing is I said, if he can get my number, I'm paying attention. I did. I met him in Los Angeles, and that was the beginning. I'll tell you, this is honest, and I'm going to turn it to Eric, is this man, it's the closest in this work, and I've been around the world with him, it's the closest I've ever seen in any work in conferences to pick up your bed and walk. I've never encountered this kind of profound healing, this reconnection. I presented many times with him, and Europeans, and they love him, and so do we. Eric, take it away. Hi.
Hey. Well, I do remember that phone call. I was a bit, more than a bit, in shock and not quite knowing where to go with it, because you see, what had happened to me was I had practiced chiropractic for 12 years, and then all of a sudden, one night, a few strange things happened. A lamp next to my bed turned itself on and woke me up. I opened my eyes to find that my bedroom door, which I had closed when I went to sleep, was now open. I thought maybe someone was in my house, so I got up and immediately located the largest knife I could get my hands on. I had an
Yes, right.
empty can of pepper spray that I figured would make me look intimidating, and I grabbed my Doberman Pinscher, who I thought would intimidate anyone in the house. Instead, she hid behind me. Hunting, couldn't find anyone, and after 20 minutes, I decided I might as well go back to sleep. It must be my imagination. So I got back into bed. I reached over to turn the lamp off, that little round knob or button that's on pretty much every lamp in America. And it was not clicked into place. It was rotated part way, and I knew that wasn't me, because I'm a clicker and a locker and a shutter, and everything's like sealed. So I thought, well, if they let me wake up in the morning, they do, but I'm closing my eyes and going to bed. All I know is, on Monday, I went into my office, and my employees started asking me what happened over the weekend. I said, nothing. Why? They said, you look so different. You sound so different. And I just, didn't give it that much attention. I went in to see my first patient, and I adjusted my chiropractic patient, finished with them lying on the back, told them to rest their eyes for a minute or two. When he opened his eyes, he asked me who would come into the room. Well, his eyes were closed. I said, no one. Why? He said, I heard someone. No one was there, I told him. He said, I felt them. I said, no one was there. He said, they were standing at the door. I said, really? No, they weren't. So it said, okay, but when someone's just placating you, they don't really believe you. I thought, well, something interesting must be going on with that person's morning. I ignored it. I went into the next patient. When she opened her eyes, she said, who came into the room while I was lying here? I said, no one. Why? She said, the person at the door. No one was at the door. She said, I heard them. No. All I can tell you is, on this one day in my 12th year in practice as a chiropractor, although no one had said this to me before, 7 different patients insisted. Someone came into the room, walked around them on the table, ran around them on the table, and 2 of them actually told me it felt as if someone was flying around the ceiling. Wow. So it would sort of be difficult for me to ignore that, but simultaneously my attention was still pulled because other patients were telling me they could feel my hands on them when I wasn't touching them. I'm saying, oh, yeah, sure, you can close your eyes. So they'd close their eyes, and I just stand there at a distance, and I'd hold my hands and angle them or move them, or all sorts of things, and they could tell me right shoulder, left ankle. So it sort of became a game because, well, it was my office, and I could have whatever games I wanted, and it was sort of fun. So I played with that, and as I would pull and stretch my hands further away, I would start to see their muscles pull larger and twist at their eyebrows and their lips, and their eyes would flutter uncontrollably, and their fingers would move. And when they opened their eyes, they started telling me that they were seeing colors that they had simply never seen before. They were smelling flowers they hadn't smelled. They were seeing people in the room with them that, although physically it didn't make sense that they could be there, they knew that they were there. They were not awake. They were not asleep. They were someplace more real with their words. Then people started getting up and walking who had come in wheelchairs. I started getting calls from the patients of some of my children with cerebral palsy or epilepsy, that suddenly they were able to walk again and run again and play and laugh and talk and not have seizures and not need their medications. Did it happen with every single patient of mine? No. But it happened with a huge lot of people. And we began to realize that something truly significant what is going on? So I started getting phone calls from their doctors and other people saying, what did you do? And I said, I didn't do anything, and don't tell anyone. Of course, the more I said that, the more everyone started talking. And then people started asking me to teach this. And I said, you have got to be insane. How do you teach something like that? The truth is, I'm standing here with no idea what I'm doing. I'm waving my hands in the air looking like an idiot. So you go outside, wave your hands in the air, you let me know what your neighbors start to say about you. And yet there was first then the researchers came, the scientists came, trying to study. They were taking measurements of things around my hands and around my body, and they're saying, we're seeing aspects of light and information. I didn't even know what they meant by information, that we've never seen before, we think may well be here on this planet for the first time. I'm going, really? And how can you say something like that? And they said, well, we can't prove it, but we haven't seen it. Television came, talk shows came, and people started really insisting that I teach it. So I went to an adult class at a place called the Learning Annex in Los Angeles. And they gathered 25 students. I brought in all sorts of crazy notes I made for myself to try to see if I could teach this and give them, what I considered teaching information. And I got there and I looked at them and I knew immediately those notes were going to do nothing. So I opened up a massage table. I walked around the room first while they were in their chairs. I let them feel this in their hands. And their hands started to involuntarily move to and respond just like everyone else's. And then I let them show them sort of how to feel it. And I let them work with people on the massage tables, and other people were having physical responses. And as I put it, I guess I unleashed 25 new healers onto an unsuspecting planet, and I just tell you that my phone started ringing so much that I had to buy my very first computer. As a matter of fact, what that reminds me of is that right now I've started, I only did 3 of them so far, every Wednesday morning at about 8 a.m., if you can believe that hour. I'm not an early person, but that's when I'm doing it. 8 a.m. every Wednesday morning, Los Angeles time, Pacific time. I do a 30-minute, I guess it's, an IG live. I couldn't think of the word. An IG live where I will talk for a minute or two, and then when everyone's on, we chat for a minute. We take a volunteer, someone we don't know, they like to volunteer, and they come on from the screen. We play with this, and their fingers go into involuntary movements, and their eyes start to move, and they can't control it, and then they share what their experience was, and it's a whole lot of fun. So I'm planning on doing this every Wednesday morning from here forward, 8 a.m. LA time, so be there or be square.
Well, interestingly enough, we're doing our Healing Wednesdays every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. at night.
Los Angeles time.
Los Angeles time. So you picked a great day.
That's
And
fantastic. We can start with Eric and finish with Kryon. How brilliant is that?
Awesome.
So it was kind of interesting because I discovered that I was sort of right when I said you can't teach this. Now my perspective of it was a little limited. My perspective of it was some kind of a gift seemed to have awakened within me. I could find this, I could feel it, I could pull with it, and I thought, well, it's a gift, and you think of a gift as something being unique to a person. But what I found out was that reconnective healing is, as the researchers explained, this bandwidth of healing frequencies that includes everything we've had in the way of energy. All of the energy healing techniques, we're accessing parts of energy, and what reconnective healing does is it seems to release the little membranes. It was like there's a Reiki membrane, there's a Qigong membrane, there's a Jinshin membrane, and there's all the new techniques and the old techniques are different portions of energy sort of encased in loving membranes. And reconnective healing seems to allow all the membranes to open, and it reconnects all of healing, all the gifts of the techniques without even having to learn them. So what happens is something happens when we interact with this, what science today calls the reconnective healing intelligence, or the frequencies, and it awakens us or inspires us, catalyzes us, or we become a catalyst actually for this, and allows us to access this spectrum of healing so we can stop doing and instead become the healing. We can stop worrying about whether we're moving clockwise or counterclockwise or north or south or up or in, or what to do first and what to do second, and let go of the steps and let go of the fear and the protections, because all you become is light, and light has nothing to protect itself from, because darkness doesn't exist. Darkness is only an absence of light, and all of our fears that we protect ourselves from is merely us not allowing ourselves to shine as the light that we are. And once we grasp this, and that's really all it is, it's just a cognizant grasping of something that then moves beyond the thinking mind. Once we get this, we simply become the light that provides healings for those with whom we interact.
Let me ask this just because I love everything you've said. And it tweaks me when you say things that we've been teaching for years, because I just love it. And one of the things you said, that the definition actually of darkness is the absence of light, and vice versa. And I love that, because this has always been, it's just like what Kryon has said, light is active, dark is not. So, it's about if you have a dark room, you light a match and many more people can see. This is the kind of, it's almost like you're lighting a match in some way that the body starts to see all the connections and starts to work it together. Do you believe that this is innate in everybody? Is it there to be activated, or it's a bad word? Is it there to be awakened?
Here's my understanding of this, okay? Best as I can explain this. And I do want you to, I want to remind you, Lee, just in case, that yours was one of the very first books in this era I ever read, and one of the finest, your very first one. Your very first one, which was, it had that interesting, The End Times.
The End Times, correct.
And I want you to know that after these healings started, someone brought me The End Times and said, I'm not going to read a book with that name, The End Times. Who wants to hear about The End Times? And then someone else brought it, and I said, no way. And then someone else said, you have to read this, and highlighted it. So I started looking at it, oh my God, what a phenomenal book. And it was like, I took it with me when I gave a presentation in Hawaii. I read it, I highlighted it more on the beach. I came back, and that's when I knew I had to reach you. And of course, as you joke about, I'm one of you people who haven't read your books, because I don't tend to read. I've listened to all of them on audio, but I read and highlight some of the ones when I'm really compelled. And your stories and your analogies just continue to enlighten the world. And I thank you so much for having heard you bring Kryon forward. I don't really have words to thank you with, but I'm sure enough of you people will do that.
You're so kind. I'm going to bring up something now, and it's something that shows people you have a gift and you've learned how to teach it. This is how I tell people, and this is what you've explained too. I said I've seen people with gifts had no idea what they were and had no idea how to put it into a course or anything else. This is what you've been doing for years and helped so many. There is an expression we use in this business called an ambush interview. And this is where somebody pretends to be wanting to interview you and show off and everything else, and you show up, and all they do is give you trouble. And
I had one of those.
Well, you've got one, and if you want, and we don't have a whole lot of time, except that I want you to talk about this. They heard about you. It was a foreign country. I won't name it. And they said, we want to show up and have you tell us about it. And they showed up with a guy or a gal who had a withered hand from birth. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Would you?
So.
And you?
Wait. I don't remember the withered hand. I remember the one with, she was 86 and had arthritis.
That's it. But it was something that she'd either had for a very long time. In other words, it wasn't something that you would normally be teaching somebody how to heal themselves. It was like it'd been there a long, long time.
Sounds like they were ambushing you.
They were ambushing because there was no way they thought that this healer could ever change that.
So
what happened?
They were so nice. Well, here, I want to back up further into this. And I do want to finish by saying, I don't believe that this can be taught. What this happens is it is communicated.
Yes.
In other words, once you interact with it, it seems to ignite something. It sort of awakens something that's dormant within, I say, this living, walking generation of Earth, not Generation X or millennials, but I mean this living, breathing, walking generation. I believe we've been placed here with something dormant to receive and to be activated, and once we interact with it, it happens. So you don't access reconnective healing from sitting in a corner and oming any more than you sit in a high-rise hotel on a beach and sit in the corner and try to ohm the ocean in. It's not coming in. If it does, you better run. It's a tsunami. You have to actually stick your spiritual little butt in the spiritual little bathing suit and march it down to the ocean. And it's the same with this. You have to interact with it. But I know the story you're talking about. I had been out. I was a bit younger and more into enjoying a little bit of partying now and then. Just a couple of drinks in another country with a whole bunch of friends. And it was my first day in 8 weeks, and I was looking forward to sleeping in one morning, and the phone started to ring. And I picked up the phone, and it was this guy with a deep radio voice saying, "Are you aware that or we won't say which country it is, it's a big country, that the such and such medical association has convened a formal meeting about you and issued a national warning?" And I started to laugh. And he said, because I thought it was a joke, and he said, "I fail to see the humor in it." Now, whenever anyone says I fail to see the humor in it, they're correct. They failed.
Thank you.
He absolutely failed to see the humor in it. Anyway, so he said it again. "What's so funny?" And I said, "I really find it hard to believe that an entire country of this size, the medical association, would have a meeting and issue a warning about one American who's standing there waving his hands in the air. How very threatening." So I said, "Thank you, I'm going back to sleep." I thought I was. I hung up the phone, I went back to sleep for a moment. The phone started ringing again. The bell started ringing again. One of the people who brought me to the agencies there sent over 3 of their PR people, keeping everyone in the lobby. And suddenly, 3 or 4 national TV shows were all there at once being kept at bay. So one of them comes up, and they're very nice. And the guy's very nice and sets up and he said, "Listen, we're going to bring this woman, we're going to talk to you for a minute." So camera comes on, and he's really, Jekyll and Hyde, nasty. Camera comes off, and he's nice and friendly again. I'm thinking, what is going on here? So he said, "Listen, we're going to bring this woman on. Would you just let her see this in your hands and do a little healing?" I said, "Sure." So in comes this very tall, sweet, 86-year-old, I believe, woman with a very kind of a proper accent. And you could see the swelling in her knuckles, in her fingers. One hand she could close about 3 to 5 degrees, and the other maybe a full 12. And he said, "So when we come back on after this commercial break, we want you to heal her." I said, "She must have been like this for 45 years. I don't know that I can do a healing right there in that second." And he said, "Well, okay, fine. So when we come back, I'll explain why you refuse to do the healing."
That's right.
Oh, shit, that's even worse.
I've heard that. I've heard that. Yeah.
So she sits down very properly and kind of excited by the concept and shows me her hand, and I held my hand to and her fingers started to move, and then the other one started to move, and she goes, "Oh, I can move my fingers. Oh, look, I can close my hands." She was very excited. So anyway, that was nice, but the next show was coming, So that night, as my hangover subsided, you can't be spiritual without spirits. I mean, really, tell the truth. So that night, we had our staff there in like three of the different rooms that were close together. We had 3 different channels on because they were on 3 different main channels, all the shows at the same time. So we watched the first one, we watched the second one, watched the third one, and the healing's phenomenal. The interviews are phenomenal. The sweet, 86-year-old woman was very good. And then all of a sudden, I hear someone go, "Eric, back here, back here." I said, "What do you mean? It's over." "No, she's back." They had brought this woman to a big medical association representative, and he's interviewing her. So I watch, and she says, "Well, look, I can close my hand. I can move my fingers." And he said, "Well, that's not possible." She said, "But look, I can close my hands." He said, "That's not possible." And now, this very kind woman who had this healing, you could see something had welled up inside of her, and she's getting angry. She looks at him and she goes, "I can button my own sweater, look!" And she buttons it, and the guy loses all color. And he pauses, and then he says, "Well, all I can say is, you were very lucky." Lucky? What was she going to do? Her fingers were going to turn purple and fall off? The worst thing that can happen with reconnective healing is nothing never happens. If you're lucky, the healing comes in the form you anticipate. But I always say, if you're truly fortunate, the healing will come in a form you have not even dreamed of. One that this intelligence knows for us. We have to stop directing and intending specificity of healing in this world. We need to learn to let go of the personality ego and to sit back and say, hey, there is a higher intelligence. This intelligence knows where to go and what to do, and we just need to get out of its way and give it license to do so. And that is the main challenge to facilitating this clearly, because our human personalities want to direct and control. And when we do that, we constrict. When we let go, we allow the perfect orchestration of, call it God, call it love, call it the intelligence of the universe, call it what you will, to demonstrate itself to us. And that in itself is a reward. Reconnective healing in itself is its own reward, and yet everyone benefits.
You know, Eric, I just love how the key things for me is that you said you can't teach this stuff, and the reason is because we have innate intelligence. And it's simply, I love that. And this is all in line with Kryon saying that we are now being empowered to connect with the innate intelligence. And I love that you're able to teach people this getting out of the way, getting out of their own way to connect with something that wants to be connected to.
Why do you think there's so much pushback when people see this and it works with the healers that are professional on the earth? I mean, wouldn't you think that they would say, this is outstanding, I've dedicated my life and given an oath to healing people, but they just turn it off?
I thought that healers would be the most open and mainstream medical would be the least. And it's really turned out to be quite different. A lot of the healing teachers confuse teaching nothing with teaching nothing. In other words, they equate nothing with nothingness. And a lot of the times as students, we've invested our money to learn techniques and methods. And as teachers, we are invested because that's how a lot of teachers make their money, by teaching techniques and methods. And really, it's time for us to become, everyone, the teachers of the teachers. We're not here to stay at the same level. I know a lot of times people will, say, well, it's the same thing that Jesus did, or this, that, and the other. And I'll say, but you know what? Maybe. But Jesus said these things, and I'm paraphrasing very loosely, and Lee, you know the exact quote, and I don't. But essentially, these things that I do, you shall do and more. Mm-hmm. And first of all, people get upset with the concept of the same things, and they become really infuriated and more. And I'm saying, you can't pick and choose. If you're going to follow the teachings of Jesus, what makes you the person to decide which ones are right and which ones are wrong? We are here to grow and evolve. Healing, people will say, I don't need a healing, there's nothing wrong with me. It's not about something being broken. Healing is not just about fixing something that wasn't working. That's a very limited perspective. Healing is about our human evolution. So everyone needs or is here for healing, because we are all here to evolve. This is part of even our teaching, even in this time of COVID. For example, we learn to evolve. Thank goodness that in the teaching, as we teach around the world, and, Lee, you and I, and now Monica too, we've ended up teaching and sharing the stage in multiple countries, on multiple continents. And now there comes COVID, and now there comes physical distancing.
That's actually the last question I wanted to ask you in this program is, what is it you're doing that would help with it?
Well, fortunately, about 2 years ago, we created a program called The Portal. Now, we had already been teaching in our live programs how to do reconnective healing distance sessions. So you don't need to be in the same room. You don't need to be in the same country. Jillian and I facilitate distance sessions. People who go to the website and look us up to schedule them with us, we do those. But everyone that we taught in reconnective healing, if you go to the website and look at the directory, if someone who speaks your language, for example, can facilitate reconnective healing distance sessions. So you don't need to be in the same breathing room or anything else with them. You don't need to be in the same country. But what we created is a program called the Portal. The portal, the doorway, the opening. And what the portal does, we did this 2 years ago, is it's a phenomenal way of teaching. It's 8 hours plus an additional extra 2 hours that we include with it. But it's not like 8 hours of online. Me, my nature, just the way I do not really enjoy intense reading of books, my nature wouldn't sit there for a whole hour at a time or 8 hours in a row. So the way we designed it is really quite intriguing. Jillian and our main person, Anna, came up with this. We do 6 minutes of an exercise and 5 minutes of philosophy and 7 minutes of science and 8 minutes of something else. And then there's another exercise. And before you know it, first hour's over. You go into the second hour and there's 7 more minutes of this and 6 more minutes of that, 8 more minutes of that. So it's like a smorgasbord line you can keep returning to at your own pace. You only have 5 minutes that you want to sit down for, or 10, then you do it. You don't need to block time out. So that's really phenomenal. As a matter of fact, on the website, there is, we offer the first hour of it for free, so you can take a look at it and see if it talks to you. See if it talks to you. Listen, this is about your inner knowingness, your truth, which is your instinct. It's not your intuition, because intuition is when we start thinking about our knowingness, we start to cloud it with thinking. Instinct. Your instinct, how does it call you? Do you want sessions? Do you want to learn the work? Do you want to learn it just for yourself? Do you want to learn it at a level where you can share it with your family or your community? All of this is really great and wonderful, and all of it's really available. There is just one Reconnective Healing Live training that's going on in the country, and it will be, I believe, the first or second, maybe the second weekend in October in New York by LaGuardia. It's taught by our main teacher, but because, as you both know, a lot of events have been canceled. So we were supposed to be teaching in Montreal. That was canceled. So we're actually going to be able to show up there and be on the floor with those of you who are attending New York City and work with you on the floor, and we'll do a little bit of the teaching with it. Meanwhile, Reconnective Healing is being taught in different countries by people we have been working with and training for the past couple of years. So fortunately, in that arena, we were prepared for COVID. And I shouldn't say we, I should say the Reconnective Healing Intelligence always knows what's coming. And it prepared itself to find a way to be able to communicate and share with you. So whether you want to learn the work for yourself and for your family in the privacy of your own home, or whether you're thinking, I really want a healing session, not just because something's wrong with me, I don't need to have COVID or something, maybe I just want to be better and more. It helps emotionally, it throws you onto your life course in ways you haven't dreamed of. It brings about abundance, prosperity, clarity, emotionally, spiritually. It's like, I almost want to, it sounds like, dump it into a glass, add water and stir, and it's everything. And it's kind of hard. You can hear from my excitement, I can't stop talking because I know the short amount of time that we have, but it's like, the most exciting thing about Reconnective Healing to me is that it opens up healing. What it's doing, is it reconnecting us? Yes. Is it reconnecting us to our original fullness? Yes. But it's reconnecting healing itself. It's taking away all the limitations and the steps and the procedures and the don't do this and the do that and don't be afraid, go clockwise under the south of the equator and counterclockwise north of the. It's taking away all of the imaginary protections that we've been doing and allowing ourselves to be. And what are we if we're not here to be, and to be healing for everyone and everything, to understand that I am you and you are me, but the truth is we're neither. We are simply existing in a field of awareness and consciousness that everyone is touching and no one is touching, everything is touching and nothing is touching. And I'm sure that for a lot of you who are watching this program right now, you're going, what am I feeling in my hand? What's vibrating in my body? And you know how I found that out? From that Hay House editor was the first person who said, I can't edit your book. I thought, oh my God, did I be wrong? She said, every time I pick it up, it starts to vibrate and drops out of my hands. And
Wow.
I did it.
You did it. Eric Pearl, you couldn't have explained it better in these last couple of minutes. And thank you for that summation. Awesome. Wonderful time. We will see you again. I know people are going to say, bring back Eric. He was fun and I learned a lot. So just get ready because we're going to ask you again. So thank you, sir. so much for being here with us.
Yeah,
And
thank
Monica,
you.
welcome home.
Thank you. It's great to be back. And you know what? We haven't seen each other for a couple of years now, but you are on fire, and I see just as much passion moving through you than I ever have. And I love what you said, that we're all just here with a greater force directing our lives.
Really love that. And you know what? And just wait, because I was told that you're going to be interviewing Jillian, and when you hear her, it'll be an entirely different way of explaining this to an
Awesome.
audience, and you're going to love it.
We can't wait.
We will.
Can't wait.
Okay, what we're going to do now, folks, is I know it's hard to get away from now. We're going to take the break of the show, and we'll be back with the Circle of 12. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had a good break. Wasn't Eric amazing?
I know.
Yeah.
He is on fire.
I know.
And I love that he's now got so many of his things are now online.
Correct.
And he's kind of matching us with doing healing stuff on Wednesday mornings.
Can I tell you something that before we went into the interview with him, he had no idea, truly, that we were doing this program every single Wednesday. I just
know.
invited him to be on our program, and so I could see him in his monitor that we look at. You know, when I said about the Wednesdays, he was going, really? So he chose Wednesday mornings, and we're choosing Wednesday evenings.
Yeah.
And he's got so many great stories to tell, and as I say, we've been with him so long, and he's a good friend. And I'd like to have him back.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. This is the time when we normally would then do the Circle of 12, and this is the first time it's being done on the Healing Wednesday. Mm-hmm. We had it one other time, and that was in the premiere. So this will be the beginning of the series. And so I would like to have Monica start this with a meditation that you might hear again.
I would love
yeah,
to.
Good. Thank
Great.
you. Mm-hmm.
So, as we prepare for the Circle of 12, let us begin by giving honor and thanks to Mother Gaia. She is our original parent, and Mother Gaia gives us all we need. Thank you, Gaia, for being here. Thank you, Gaia, for loving us. And let us give honor and thanks to the Star Mothers. Thank you, Star Mothers, for being here. Thank you, Star Mothers, for loving us. The Star Mothers are our spiritual parents who came to Earth as part of a grand system to give us the spark of divinity, this piece of God that lives inside. Is the power of the God energy within the human being. You are part of the system of the Creator that is biased in love. Let us affirm our willingness to receive the unconditional love of the Creator. I am willing to accept the perfect love of the Creator. I am willing to accept the perfect love of the Creator. I am willing to accept the perfect love of the Creator. Let us now continue towards the Circle of 12, and let us affirm that we give permission to connect with the God inside.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer, will you? Come a little closer to this energy from the other side of the veil, which I have brought to this planet now for 31 years. What does that mean to you? Those who are new to this energy might not see it as those who have been experiencing it all along. The idea, the premise of channeling is that there are hidden things here. There's a greater, grander truth here that is represented by those which teach spirituality on the planet. A hidden truth that goes beyond anything that you're told. A greater truth that is always there, is always with you. I've spent a lot of time telling you some of the beautiful and profound stories, the metaphors, the parables of how grand you are and how much the Creator loves you, of the discoveries that you can make simply by sitting quietly and listening. This is and has always been the premise of the meditators of the planet. That when you get to a place of quietness and you stay there, eventually some of the fog starts to clear. And you can feel that love of the creative source that is there. The premise of the circle of 12 is that you go to a place that is like that. A place that belongs only to you, and you do it alone. And that's what we're going to do in a moment. You go alone. That you would let me be your guide for this meditation. My representation to you is that of a partner of family, not even as a teacher. As you listen to my voice and participate in these things, I invite you to participate in that which is profound, available, always has been, beautiful, magnificent, and is part of you. There's always a question about how real these things are. Not too long ago, in the first healing circle, that which was called the premier, the first, I walked you through a scenario and asked you, how real is this to you? Is something you visualize as real as what you touch when you're awake? And you would say, no, they are two different kinds of reality. There is the real reality that I walk around and work in, and then there's the other reality that is somehow in a dream. I want to ask you something. What if the dream was the real reality? And what you walk around in is a 3D representation of the best you can do under the current circumstances of a low-energy planet. Did you get that? What if the visualizations that you could put together for yourself that become multidimensional are actually more real than that which you can touch with your hand? Kryon, why would you say such a thing? Where is the basis for that? And I will give it to you. Because you live in less than 5 dimensions. Everything you have is in less than 5. And yet, reality, there are hundreds of dimensional attributes. Now, what's real and what's not? We'll say it again. But it's like that which is color to black and white. You are in black and white. It's all you know. Therefore, that's your reality. And when you see something that is in color, you can't really see it. It's shades of that which you think is real. And so those shades become unreal. To some, they become fantasy or even fallacy. To some, they're even evil. And here you are living in a fraction of the true reality of the universe, thinking it's the only reality you have. Do you see this? Do you see where I'm coming from? So when I invite you to cross that bridge in a moment, what if, just what if, you were walking into the real thing and walking out of a limited reality that you just think is all that is? That is the truth. I've said so many times to you that the one who's had the near-death experience goes through that tunnel, and for a moment they pull back the curtain and they see the reality of God, their soul. They see the family, they see all that is, and they grasp their heart figuratively, say, oh my, and they don't want to come back. Once it has been revealed to any human, the actual reality of what is on the other side of that veil, they don't want to come back. What does that tell you about that reality of 3D that you walk around in that you think is all there is? There are so many who say, well, I'm not going to go to that place where you are, that foolishness of the channel. I'm not going to go into thinking about those kinds of things because I know what's real and I know what's not. And the answer is no, you don't. You have no idea. You think you do. And so the invitation is to go to that place where you have to drop that which you think you know. So let's go there now. This exercise that I'm going to go through right now, the process, whatever you wish to call it, is a journey into the unknown. And many times I will say it yet again. You're going from what you know to what you don't know. And in that process, you're going to have to unlearn what you think that you know that is real, that is accurate, that is true. And that's hard. It's tough. And the reason is that what you know has often been given to you by experience, by your parents, by those who love you, by your priests, your rabbis, as what is God? What is the process of God? Who is God? What do you do about it? How do you act? What if all of those things were the best they had at the time they gave them to you? There was no deception. It's simply the best they had. And in the evolving earth, the human being is also evolving in such a beautiful but slow way by free choice at its own speed. After this, the precession of equinoxes, after the shift of 2012, coming into the new human, to the new reality. And that requires, dear ones, requires that you at least take a look at what might be there that you never saw before. I say requires because all through these days there will be those who start to question what they were told. Stand by, scientists, because you will have to question what you've been told. Even when it comes to the basic laws of Newton and Kepler and those that you have used and trusted that work, suddenly there will be other aspects of their work that seem to reveal themselves, and you're going to have to either go with it or not. Many will not, because they cannot remove themselves from their life's work, which looks just like this and no bigger, and they don't want it ever to be any bigger. That's it. Like an onion. Your onion can be peeled. The layers of information that you were given can slough off layer by layer to allow a greater truth, the truth of your magnificence, not your unworthiness, your magnificence. And in that, there is healing. Oh, there's more than that. There's also a time here where your life can be longer. I said in that healing premiere that your body and your chemistry and your cellular structure has been designed to rejuvenate and rejuvenate and rejuvenate. And it's been designed to do it well, not poorly, not dysfunctionally like it does now. And what happens when the body starts to rejuvenate better and the telomeres don't shorten? Your lifespan becomes double and triple what it is today, because then the body is operating correctly. Today, it is not. That is one of the issues. Your body is not working efficiently. Neither is your consciousness. So many feel this. That's why you're here. So many feel this. Come closer, dear ones. Let's go to that place. Visualize with me that you are standing at a bridge, and this bridge has a chasm which it spans, and you have to cross the bridge in order to get to the other side. And in the middle of that bridge, there is a mist that envelops everything. And you can see it as a wall of mist. And in this vision, you're going to go toward that wall of mist if you choose. Right away, there would be those who say, I don't choose to do that. Why would I ever go into a place that I don't understand or that I don't know? It's a good question, isn't it? Could it be that someone has told you, don't go there? Could it be that someone has told you, if you walk into that mist, it's dangerous. Someone's going to capture you on the other side. Could it be that all of that has been trained into you? That's part of the onion, isn't it? You see, the other side of the mist is where you are, your soul. There are those who say, don't go there. It's dangerous to go there. You have no right to go there. This is an old energy teaching that wants to keep you here in 3D, doing what they want you to do while they tell you you're unworthy and don't deserve to be here. Where they tell you there's a loving God that never even looks at you. Does that really sound correct to you, to any of you? Beautiful soul, created in His image, released into the darkness where they don't even care. It doesn't make sense. Not even to a child does that make sense, dear ones. And yet, that is often what is taught. You stand at this bridge, and I say it again, don't go there. Don't go across the bridge unless you want to, unless you mean it. If you simply go to take a look, I'll tell you what will happen as you walk into the mist. Some of you will simply go to sleep. You'll wake up and so it is. Because nothing there did you understand. Nothing there really was ready for you to see. And for some, that's why you're going to be here week after week, because you want to cross that, but you have to let the onion slowly dissolve the layers of belief in things you've been told or trained into that you thought were true. Let me address this. No one is going to lose their faith, dear ones. That is the other fear. Well, if I walk in there, I'll lose that faith that I have, that beautiful relationship I have to God that I love right now. Dear one, don't you understand? When you go into that unknown place and you walk into the energy of the soul, all of that doubles and triples. It's going to be way more than it ever has been before. Whatever your faith is, whatever you believe God is, becomes amplified with this. Amplified. Doesn't take it away. Oh, it just gets bigger. Everything is bigger than you were told. Everything. Let's walk toward the mist together. How real is this? I said it in the premiere. When you talk to someone who has a near-death experience, was that going on in 3D or was that going on in some vision? And they'll say, it was more real than anything I've ever experienced. They'll tell you that. And when they come back, and some of them have spontaneous remissions, their doctors will tell you that. This is real. We've never seen anything like that. What's real and what is not real, dear ones? That's one of the things that will peel away with the onion. What you're about ready to do is go to the real reality of all that is. You walk into the mist, those of you who wish. And that mist, dear ones, becomes a fog for only a moment, then it clears instantly. Now, all of this is metaphoric. We're going to talk about that in many episodes to come. How does your brain see all of these things? How does your experience of being a human see all of these things? A fog is something that lasts for a while, and you have to move through it gently until it clears. This fog clears instantly as soon as you make the decision to walk through it. So what is it really? It's not really a fog, is it? It's a wall of unbelief. There's more. But once you walk and have that intent to walk through the mist, You cognize what you're doing. Now, this is a word that means full belief. It becomes you. There have been some who say, well, do you believe in this or do you believe in that? Let me ask you, do you believe in gravity? And there are those who will say, well, that's not something you believe in, it just is. Correct. The mist and what's on the other side just is. You don't believe in it. You become it as you walk through it. Oh, everything starts to change, dear ones. Everything starts to change. And I wish I could do something more than just take you here in this vision. I want you to feel it and hear the music. I want you to know that this is something that the innate of your body has been waiting for you to do. There is a lot of celebration right now, dear ones. There's a lot of celebration. And you would say, well, celebrating, who is celebrating? Oh, you'll see. You'll find out. You see, you're never alone. What do you think of that statement? You're never alone. You're not as you sit there, as you stand there. In the vision, you're standing. In this particular reality you're in, you're sitting. So are you sitting or standing? And the answer is, oh, you're standing before that beautiful, beautiful potential source that you're about ready to meet. You're standing. In a lesser dimension, you're sitting there watching a screen. In the real dimension, you're standing and about to move in to a very precious place. Very precious place. The landscape is whatever you want to make of it, dear ones. We'll fill it in later as we go. This is so new to you, but you're starting to feel things, and the first thing I want you to feel is safety. It's a safe place. It's a safe place. It's a safe place to be where there is no harm, there is no untruth here, there is no one who will capture your soul. The only thing that's going to be captured is an awakening that you're going to have of reality that you didn't expect. There's a temple there in this mist, past the mist. Almost as soon as you cross the bridge, you're faced with it. This also will morph and change over the episodes of the Healing Circle of 12. It's good that you're hearing these things now. For each episode, we'll change them slightly, and you'll have a chance to peel that onion in your own way of the truths that you learned, which are not. And it takes you to a place where the temple is you. Your own temple is before you with a name on the door which has not yet been described and keeps changing. We've told you before, we'll tell you again, this represents that which is a changing reality, which multidimensionality is. A multidimensional place is not really a place at all. Hard to describe to you. Science also has very, very difficult time explaining how things can be at several places at the same time when they get out of that which is your limited dimensionality. And that's where you are. Things can shift and go and be, but it's totally complete because the only thing that is constant there is you and the love that is for you. You are the king of this land, dear ones. You are the queen of this land, dear ones, because you are now entering your own temple. In future episodes, we'll talk about the entrance. We'll talk about what you might see as you enter, the things you might pass as you enter. But this is simple because it's the starting episodes of something that will continue to be more complex as we go. I told you before, one other time when we met, that when you get into that temple, you immediately see it's a theater. What does your consciousness in 3 dimensions tell you about a theater? There's going to be something happen there at a certain time. And in that, the lights will dim. You sit down and you see something that you wanted to because you paid to get in. That is what the metaphor is. You paid to get in. You paid with that which is going through the mist. You paid with cognizing the bravery and the courage to go into this unknown place. That's what you paid. And there you sit, looking at a theater in the round. Some of you have seen this, where the stage is at the center and the audience of any size you wish is around it. The stage on this one you see as sunken. There's a reason for that as well. Because when someone is on that stage, everyone can see them perfectly. They don't have to look up. They can right there where they are, they can see very, very clearly exactly what's happening at all angles to you. Because you're going to go down those steps. And you're going to mount that stage and sit in the only chair that is on the stage. Well, Kryon, which direction does the chair face? Oh, how linear of you to ask. There is no direction in a multidimensional place. You sit in all directions. Figure that one out. And as you sit there looking at all that is, there's an audience seemingly of empty chairs. But they're not. And you know that. And just like that, which is the show which is about to begin, it does. And the lights go down. And the first thing you see might even be angels. You're not really sure. And they're coming to you. And they're bowing to you. They want to make sure their head is lower than yours. You know what that means. So many of you know what that means. And then they start. You see, before you ever went into that temple, you took off your shoes. You did it automatically, dear ones. You took off your shoes. That is a metaphor known all over the earth for walking into a sacred place. You take off your shoes. And because now you have no shoes or no socks, you have bare feet. The ones in front of you who would seem to be angelic start to wash your feet. How long does it take for hundreds to wash your feet? And the answer is as long as you want. They can do it 2 at a time, 5 at a time, 10 at a time. You're in a multidimensional place, but it feels the same. And they're washing your feet with the tears of their joy that you made it to this place, that you really honored yourself, and you had the courage to say, I want to move out of what I was told and take a look and cognize the idea that I'm more magnificent, that I'm not a victim of the planet, that maybe I have something to contribute in my consciousness to my own life's purpose, that I can live longer and I can heal whatever I came for. I can heal the anxiety or the fear or my body. It doesn't matter, because my innate now is listening. So I want you to just stop the show for a moment. Right now, in your corporeal body, your smart body is on alert right now. And your smart body is really excited because they're saying, she's doing it. Look at that, she's doing it. Look at that, he's doing it. Oh dear. It's almost like the bell is ringing. It's almost like the track has changed from track 1 to track 2, and you hear it clack over, and the train that you were on goes somewhere else because you have decided that this is real. And your innate knows it, and it starts to then cooperate with everything you're doing. And they say at every level, that intelligent body, look. Oh, it's happening. We never thought it would. Look at what she's doing. Look at what he's doing. And you sit in the chair in the middle of that place, letting your feet be washed by all of those entities who seem to be faceless at the moment, then and then and then. In this scenario, in this beginning scenario, the audience starts to appear to you. And there's hundreds of them. And they all have your face. That's a metaphor, because each one is you in a past life. All the experiences you've ever had on this planet, all the epiphanies, the joys, the sorrows, the births, the deaths are there. They're all there. And each one of them is ready to wash your feet, because you've reached this point where the planet is starting to change, where everything that you've been through in the Akashic record that is yours leads to this pinnacle point of you in the chair. And now it's time for the healing, is it? What better time when your feet are being washed than for you to say and start claiming, I am healed. I am a child of God made in His image, a figurative that says I am part of the creative source. My body is this, my body is that. Don't you dare ask for anything. You claim what is yours. I have no more fear. I do not think about those who betrayed me. And start listing the things that you are, not the things you want to be. And then the healing begins. And this is the key and the source of all spontaneous remission miracles, always has been on the planet. The connection to the soul. The connection to the soul. This is where we stop. Now, we won't always stop there. But for this beginning, we will. There's so much more. There's advice on what to do next and how it works and all of these things. But here's the invitation. Don't leave this place. Not for a while. Let this simply be the warm-up. And after I say, and so it is, and after the meditation is dismissing you, stay. The music will continue. The feeling will continue. Stay and bask in the love that is there for you. And maybe, just maybe, at some level, you will say, oh, he was right. I am magnificent because I am a piece of magnificence and created that way on purpose through love. And so it is.
And in the essence of what Kryon has asked, I now invite you to continue to sit and be loved for just a little while longer. For those of you who wish to bring your awareness back so they can chat with others, you may do so, and perhaps you may wish to retreat back again and close your eyes to sit again and be loved for just a little while longer. Lee and I wish to give you peace, love, and blessings, and we look forward to seeing you again.
I just wanted to share this moment with you because it's a very special moment, and there's some surprises. We are right here at the